Welcome to the Popcorn Talk Network, for the online broadcast network that features movie discussion, news, and interviews. Press 1. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies. From the Popcorn Talk Network, the online broadcast network for movie talk, this is Inside the Documentary, featuring breakdowns and interviews about all the latest documentaries.
Hello and welcome to Popcorn Talks Inside the Documentary, where we'll be discussing the trials and tribulations of documentary filmmaking. I'm Kristen Elizabeth Snyder. You can follow me at Cinematic Escape. You can follow the Popcorn Talk Network at the Popcorn Talk on Instagram, on Twitter. And joining me, my hosts on Popcorn Talk today are...
Hello everybody, I'm Ryan Malady. Thanks for stopping by today.
And I'm Bobby DeMuro.
Today we're discussing Out of Nothing documentary, the Bonneville motorcycle racing, and we have the producers and editors and everyone in studio with us today. I just want to go around the room and you guys go ahead and introduce yourself and let us know what your part was on the film.
Sure. My name's Chad DeRosa. I'm the director and the cinematographer.
My name is Andrew Lahmann. I'm the producer and composer.
My name is Colin Dalvit. I was an associate producer and visual effects supervisor.
I'm Anna Sweeney, and I was the editor.
I'm Ryan Stiles. You may know me for my many years playing the role of Doogie Howser, and I did craft service.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for being in studio with us today to talk about the film. So we always want to know right away, why this film? And, you know, what was your inspiration for doing this subject?
Well, gosh, it's I grew up on the back of a motorcycle as a kid, was always around them, and raced and got into filmmaking and photography, and had got to know Mark and Carl doing some photography for the motorcycles, doing some magazine features and photo shoots for them, and they came up with the idea to go to Bonneville once they met Bill and Omar, and from there it just took off, and it was a story that had to be told, so started filming.
I was going to ask why these particular four men.
Yeah.
So you knew them just because you went to Bonneville, actually, and met them there initially?
Well, no. Mark and Carl knew them through the construction industry, and they were just a couple of characters, you know. They build motorcycles all the time, and they just have that look and that charisma about them. And then they had met Bill and Omar, and they kind of brought them to the table, and so kind of met them through that way.
So Carl and Mark are brothers.
Yes.
And Bill and Omar are just kind of friends that work together.
Best buds for years and years.
And they all four of them met at Bonneville. Is that how they kind of met?
No, they're from up in Bellingham, and so they met locally. Really through the motorcycle community they met.
Okay, and so they were already kind of a team when you met them.
Yeah. They had just met Bill and Omar, and Bill and Omar had been going to the Bonneville Salt Flats for years. And so when they met Mark and Carl, they were like, yeah, we spent a lot of time at Bonneville racing, and Mark and Carl were like, well, hey, we've always wanted to go do that. And, and they're like, well, come on, let's go. Let's build you guys some motorcycles, and let's get you down there and check it all out. And that's how it all started, was kind of the journey of Mark and Carl perhaps going to the Bonneville for the first time, fulfilling a lifetime dream of going to race at Bonneville. And so that was kind of the initial thought of a direction that we could go with it. But really it turned into a lot more once we got there, so...
Right. What I really love about this film is it's a bunch of average Joes, who decide that they're not really satisfied in their daytime job and they want to pursue their passion. So after they get done working a long day, they then go and work on their passion for just as many hours. And they're sort of chasing that glory and passion, satisfaction that we all do in life. And I think I told Andrew I started watching it and it was super late at night and I was just planning to start it, but I ended up watching the whole thing. I got sucked in. It was so great. Just watching, really getting to know these guys. And I mean, anyone can relate to that. Like having a dream, but having to work the grind and then having to do it later when you're exhausted. Everyone can relate to that. So I just want to let the fans know where they can see this. They can go to your Facebook page right now to get updates about the movie coming out. It's www.facebook.com/outofnothingfilm. And can we just talk about how it's going to be on ESPN relatively in August? Can you guys talk about distribution so the fans know? Today we're going to talk about, why you should be excited about the film and kind of fill you in on Bonneville and all the guys, but then also where they can check out the film.
Sure. So of course the ultimate goal is to get this out in front of as many people as possible, and have it affect the widest array of audiences around the world. And so we started running the film festival circuit to get exposure and raise awareness in parts of the world and parts of the country that we hadn't tapped into yet. And through the help of agencies and the exposure, the positive feedback the film has been getting, we were able to sign with ESPN for a distribution deal for television, and there's other distribution deals that are coming up. So ESPN can start airing the film in August, and they'll have it for a period of 3 years, and they can play it unlimited times.
That's incredible, by the way. Congratulations to all you guys.
Yeah. Did you say get it in front of the widest audience or the whitest audience? I didn't hear what you because we don't care, right? Yeah, I thought for a minute you said the widest audience we can.
Wide with a D. And in the meantime, prior to August, we're going to be trying to screen around the country and other places, and we have some more film festivals coming up in Utah and New York.
What has been the reaction so far from people who've seen this? Do you find a lot of working class people in cities across the country say, even if I don't know motorcycles, that's me, I'm like them, I relate to them?
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty much collectively what's been happening. Is one thing that's been unique for us to watch is when there's a screening, you get this massive community of motorcycle enthusiasts that come. And then you have families and people maybe with them that didn't know anything about it, they happen to be a victim of circumstance. Do I have to go see this? And those are the people that come up to us when they're done, say, I had no idea. I don't know anything about motorcycles. In fact, I don't care about this. And that just blew me away. And that's the best compliment that we can get. And we just recently came from a screening in Tennessee where, we had ladies and children there as well, like other screenings that come up. And they're just like, oh my gosh. Wow, where can I see this next? Where can I get it? And that's a good compliment for us to hear. We were working really hard to make it go beyond just a motorcycle movie.
Well, that's brilliant, because I'm right there in that boat. I'm not the biggest motorcycle buff. I don't know anything about it, but I can appreciate a good story, and that's definitely what you guys put together. I mean, you got these 4 guys with dynamic personalities, and they each got their own bike that they built. The Yamahas, the Nosferatu, Godspeed, the Ducati, all these bikes that have their own personality along with the guys. And I mean, not to mention the beautiful cinematography and the special effects that you guys were able to pull off. I mean, it's a beautiful film.
Yeah, the production quality is tremendous.
To see Bonneville from those aerial perspectives, I mean, I've never seen anything like that. I've seen old racing videos, from like the ground level, but you can only get a certain idea of speed from that level. I mean, you guys really made this come to life for me as just a layman. Now I feel like I want to go ride a motorcycle. I want to get into it. I just wanted to ask, how does that really work when it comes to the actual racing side? I mean, there's different bikes, different records are being set for speed trials. I mean, how does that kind of work?
Well, there's actually a lot of different classes in which you can go and compete for records against. And so it's all dependent on whether it's a production bike, perhaps off the showroom floor. You just take it and you race it. Or, and like in the instance with our guys, they build these things from the ground up. So that's a whole different class. But it's also based on engine size, whether you have aerodynamics applied to it, or whether it's what they call a naked bike with no aerodynamics applied. So there's, several different options for running that. So, and records and whatnot. So
what I really liked is the bikes there. They were so diverse, and that some of them, were like these vintage style, and then some guys were doing like state-of-the-art technology.
Like spaceships.
Yeah. And someone, I think, mentioned it was like walking on the moon, sort of like the territory. It was really cool, and just like the community that they have there of like-minded people. That was the most interesting to me. I mean, obviously, I did ride my bike here, so I know about motorcycles as well. But but I just feel like anyone can get into that. If there was a place, someone said that they felt like it was heaven, and I really feel like if there was a place you could go where it was like-minded people, who everyone was doing your passion, of course that would be your heaven, So it was, for me, it was really interesting to just watch these guys. And for this documentary, it wasn't like there was found footage and it was a bunch of photos and I was listening to people recount stories.
Right.
I actually got to be part of this documentary unfold, and so the entire time I was really intense into it. And I want to talk about the VFX a little bit. I haven't really seen VFX
Beautiful.
in documentaries, so could you just talk about the opening sequence and what that was like and why you guys decided to involve VFX?
Yeah, well, thanks first of all. Andy and I talked early on, and I'm a big opening credits kind of buff. I like them. I think they're a great opportunity to kind of introduce a theme or kind of encapsulate what the rest of the movie is going to be, like right up front. And Andy said, "Hey, do you want to take this on?" And I said, "Sure." And we settled upon the kind of being in their shop and making things on a macro level, just to kind of get that across right away, because you don't really see a lot of that through the movie, really, like the nuts and bolts. So yeah, and the VFX was just kind of went along with that to tell the story. So
Yeah, and we wanted people, right when they started watching the movie, to, if we set the bar high, if they watch this,
Right.
they watch it differently from that point on. It's like,
Absolutely.
oh, okay, it's not just a little documentary, I'm watching this. And, you know, it helps from the get-go. And in order to do that, we had to convince someone that owned a Phantom Flex super slow-motion camera to come shoot with us. And the guy who owned it decided to go get it out of the rental store himself and bring it up, because you have to have a certified technician, and we had just pennies to work on. But he believed in the project, and he said, you know what, I'll go grab it and I'll bring it up, and let's do a day of shooting to get these shots, and so people can see, you know, these guys working on their bikes from a different perspective that no one's ever seen before. You know?
Right.
So.
It reminded me, the VFX reminded me a lot. I don't know if you guys have seen Penny Dreadful, but the opening credit sequence there, which is a huge compliment, that their opening credit sequence is very specific. And when I got into it, sort of similar to you, I'm like, okay, I'll watch this. Typically, I watch these things twice. I'll watch it through once, take some notes the second time, lock it in. I was hooked from that, from the music and the credits. And I said, wait a second, what's going on here is so specific. Every shot, it seemed like there was a specific choice behind each one in the shop, that I can imagine, and it held true, every shot for the next hour and a half is going to be as specific. So I think that, like you say, is a credit to the film itself to say, okay, you better pay attention now. We're not doing this because we have to do these credits. This is, in a weird way, almost like a music video within a film. You're telling a mini story within the story. And I really, really like that.
Yeah, it was supposed to be sort of like the making of the Ducati. I mean, and progressing from the paper, which was sort of like the Salt. And so I storyboarded it, and then Chad and Andy and I shot it, and Chad shot a lot of that's not Phantom stuff, and he lit it all, and, you know, and put it together that way. And Andy did the music score, and so I basically got the score, and there was a little back and forth because it seemed really long. Like I was kind of leery of doing that many shots on it, but
well, it was an hour and a half.
Yeah,
that is long for opening credits.
The first cut was epic. So we did it based on the music that Andy provided, and the shots kind of just fell in place. I mean, I think I had 47 different versions of the cut, which is not unusual, really. I mean, but I just wanted to get it right, and then after that was locked and approved, then I started doing the motion tracking and getting the actual VFX part in there. It's a powerful sequence without the VFX, really. I mean, when it's just the 2D effects, and we almost didn't do the 3D stuff because it was too kind of flashy or whatever, but I think it worked out.
Oh no, it sucked me right in.
Okay.
And, you guys had the 3D stuff, you had slow motion stuff, you had time lapses and drones, and I mean, this thing was impressive. What was the most challenging, I guess, scene or shot that you, or I guess the biggest challenge you had to overcome while filming? I mean, there was a rainstorm at one point.
I assume that also affected you guys.
It was tough.
Well, the behind-the-scenes footage of that's going to be fun.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole thing was just it was nothing really planned. So every bit of it was a challenge as it just unfolded. You never knew what was coming around the corner. I mean, especially with the weather, the heat, you know, motorcycles, camera gear, dealing with the camera gear and the salt and whatnot. The second year, right when Andrew started coming on board, made the suggestion of like, see if you can get some aerial shots while you're down there. And so we wrangled up an airplane from a local school teacher who was a pilot for a hobby, and he's like, yeah, I got a Piper Cub, and I'll take you up. And so we ended up in this basically like a kite, flying, basically. These airplanes are, 1-inch square aluminum with canvas for, its body. And so I'm huddled in there with camera gear, and we're flying along, and I'm shooting out, and a lot of those pieces are still used in the film today. So that was a huge challenge, like getting that. And really, it was all done with no budget, and that's how the title of the film really works, because the film came out of nothing, from our standpoint. So that was a huge struggle.
And the guys make their bikes out of nothing as well. Some of those guys, they put every dollar into it that they don't even have enough money to pay for a hotel or food, and they're all relying on woods too. I really wanted to see that part. Now, did he end up giving them money? I know he told Mark, if Mark he made little bets with in competition in their little pack there. But did he end up paying for them in the film?
I think there was some help there for sure. Yeah. No,
I loved that too, because these guys just literally putting every penny they have into these bikes, all their sweat and tears, and then they just have enough money to get there. They don't have enough money to go back, which they probably, some of them don't want to. And the passion overall was incredible. So I want to know, how many hours did you guys shoot, and how much did you end up using to give Anna to edit? Did you give her everything, or how did that process work?
Yeah, you asked earlier what were some of the most challenging things to overcome, and I think everybody in each department has their own, but when we had Anna come up, it's like, here's about 100 hours of footage, and we have to know everything that's in here and catalog it and organize it. And how she did that on her own, we'll never know. And if we're like, hey, don't we have a shot of this? But oh yeah, it's right over here, types in her keywords, and came in and organized this all on her own. And so I feel like that would be a massive challenge. And we're asking her to recall this footage or that footage.
Thank God for the methamphetamine.
Yeah.
That helped out.
Yeah. Anna, can you speak to that? And about how many hours do you think you had that you had to go through?
Well, we probably started with at least 100, at least. And then with going back again, we probably at least doubled that, just because we had 4 or 5 cameras when we went back even after that.
Yeah.
So it's just being organized, getting all that stuff in, but I wouldn't say that was the most challenging, organizing it all. And you just, as you're logging it, of course, you just get familiar with it, you make your categories and stuff. It's just...
So it all comes together naturally.
Yeah, I think it was hard because we weren't apart from the beginning. Mm-hmm. So even though Chad knew what he had, it was still, 2 years later when we really got in the cutting room. So then it's relearning what he has, Andy and Colin and I, figuring out what do we have, and then building a story out of that.
How many years did it take you guys, beginning to end?
Well, we started filming in 2011, 2012, and then everybody came on board for 2013, and we went down and filmed once more. So pretty much all of 2013 we were in post-production, and so
yeah, I think it's
3 years.
Important to know that Chad started this a couple years before the rest of the crew came on board, and got a lot of this footage that was the backbone of the whole thing. And then he decided, my gosh, there's something special here. How do we make this a full story arc? It's more than I ever thought I was going to get, and so then we came on board and kind of assembled a team around the post-production time, and we had to assemble a small crew, find people who were good at multiple things, because everybody had to wear multiple hats, and came on and tried to assemble the story. It's like, out of all this footage, which story do you tell? What's going to resonate the most with people? Which one's the most real? And
were there other characters that you guys followed that you didn't end up using?
No, there was a lot of the supporting characters, which we do see in the film. There was several more of those that that we didn't necessarily use, but yeah.
Dennis Bub
Manning.
Manning
yep.
opened it up, and he's the kind of the pioneer of record setting on the racetrack. And
yeah, he's got a long history of setting records out there. He's been very successful out there over the years, and just like he talks about in the beginning of the film, that's why he set up and designed the actual race that these guys attend, the event, because he wanted to have an event of his own. And so he's kind of the backbone of how that event started, that particular event. So
I want to go. I want to go to Bonneville.
Yeah.
It looks really fun. Did you guys have a blast there? I mean, I'm sure it was like, you're at work, but
Well,
you
yeah.
have some fun there too?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when you love what you do for work, then it's never work, right? So, yeah, it's a blast. And being there in the middle of it, and, those bikes are starting up, and the rumble and the shake, you can feel it. And so, yeah, I mean, the whole experience is just awesome. It's nonstop, go, go, go. But then when you're with a great group of people, then even at the end of the day, when you're back at the hotel kicking it in the parking lot, you're just having a good time. So it's one of those things, like, you want to just keep going back, like, even if you don't have a motorcycle to ride. It's just those memories, you always want to keep them going.
Speaking to the documentaries at home, the filmmakers who go out there and find a subject like you did, and then they realize they have something special, how did you go about assembling the rest of your team?
Well, I mean, in the beginning, this is something that I thought that I would accomplish on my own. And when it came back with, like, so many hours of footage, it was like, oh my God, there's no way I can finish this thing. And so luckily that's when Andrew came on board. And
was someone mentioned him to you, or how did that connection happen?
Yeah, we kind of met through Mark and Carl. He knew Mark and Carl from another side. And so Mark and Carl kind of put us in touch. And yeah. But Andy can speak more from there on putting the team together.
Yeah, so when I took a look at Chad's footage, I had him send up a hard drive. He was down in California at the time when I was really looking into this, and I called him and said, why don't you send a copy of your hard drive and I'll look through some of the footage. And there was a lot of footage. And I really started to see how he was interviewing people. It wasn't, like, great. I mean, he showed the bikes, you saw some racing, but it was what I heard from the people in the interviews. I'm like, these are people working hard to follow their dreams. That's what we can do. I didn't know anything about motorcycles, so I wasn't too interested at first. But when I saw the types of questions he was asking, what he was getting from these guys, I'm like, okay, everybody can relate to that, whether they've tried to follow a dream or they've had one and they never have. That's when it was like, okay, let's do this. And Ryan and I were just finishing editing a TV pilot that another group had filmed up in Bellingham, and I had him come back and look at some footage we cut together, and it's like, what do you think? I think we could do this. And I had been working with several crew members for a while that, had proven themselves to me on charity projects and projects where they weren't even getting paid and they were just doing dynamite work. And so we called all the troops and just kind of assembled what I would believe to be like a producer's dream team. I mean, all these people that just, you don't even have to ask them, they're ready to work and go 110%. And everybody came on board with their select set of skills and just, knocked it out of the park.
Did the four guys, Mark, Carl, Bill, and Jason, did they get the point from the beginning? I mean, did you ever have to sell it to them and say, I want to do this story? Or was there ever a point where they said, you know what, I'm not sure I want to tell this story anymore? Or were they always on board the entire time saying this needs to be told?
Yeah, I think they were really excited. And once we started capturing footage and they kind of saw how it was falling together, even before I'd even shown them anything, they could see how it was being captured and, very quickly realized, like, wow, this is a chance to tell the story of our passion in our sport. I mean, everybody can watch NASCAR or, all the other popular forms of racing, but Bonneville's not really out there. So these guys are so passionate out there. They were really excited about the opportunity to be able to tell their story to the rest of the world. So they were very open to it. And, they understood the passion from our end and the passion from their end. And they just knew it would work awesome. And, like I said in the beginning, we didn't really know what direction it was going to go. But after, just one season of racing down there, we quickly realized it wasn't just a nuts and bolts, gearhead motorcycle movie. There's a lot of human element here. And so that's when we really took off and started going that direction and came to where we're at now.
Absolutely.
Have the four of them seen the finished product, I assume?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What, did you care to share their reviews?
Yeah, were they like, can we edit this out? I mean, what were their reactions?
No, and we were pretty specific to kind of keep them out as much as possible, just because we wanted to go in and do the best job that we could, and when you get too many chefs in the kitchen, it makes it pretty tough. So but we'd give them little pieces just to keep them motivated and enthusiastic and so yeah, but I mean, they were just absolutely thrilled. I don't think they ever realized at any point that it could be what it is now. It's oh yeah, this would be a cool little video or cool home video someday that we can look back on. But once, and we really held out to the very end, to the premiere up in Bellingham.
The first time they saw it, yeah.
Yeah, and so we're in a sold-out theater of 1,500 people in our hometown, and the place was just electric, and so that was their first time of seeing it, and I think they were just really stoked about it.
Do you guys think that you'll screen this at Bonneville next year?
We will. We screened it at Bonneville last year.
No way.
To our
That's
knowledge, it was the
incredible.
first time a movie's ever been allowed to be shown. We screened it on the Salt for the racers at the event.
On the Salt?
On the side of a semi, and brought out generators to power big speakers, and all the racers came out the day before racing began, and we screened it just for them.
That's
And
incredible.
it was good for them to be able to see it, because there are scenes that happen, and they're like, well, we're sitting here right now, watching this. And
Ryan, I wanted to talk to you as a producer. What sort of struggles did you go through?
I had no struggles at all because I was barely involved. What they're failing to mention, and they don't, I mean, even when they mentioned back in Tennessee and how much people loved it, and by the way, the fact that you love the movie, when we were doing this, putting together, the one thing we wanted was not to make a gearhead movie, and we wanted it to appeal to women as well, and children and everything else. So, but it won Audience Choice at Tennessee, not just for documentaries, but for all films. They've won a ton of awards to the festivals they've gone to. But the neatest thing about this film was, we're all from a very small town in Washington State, Bellingham, and the budget for this was slightly over $100,000. But there were so many favors called in, and people just wanting to do things. All the music's original. We had bands from Bellingham writing original music for it. You'd come in one day, Andy would be in the sound studio, which is in a room at the back of a warehouse somewhere, where a French horn is coming in from the university there, and the next day a drummer's coming in. So everybody volunteered their time. It was really cool. Even as far as the bikes went, if I'm not mistaken, a lot of those parts for the bikes were donated by motorcycle shops around Bellingham. So it really was a community effort. The whole city got behind it. So it was a neat feel. And if you needed something, like Andy said, people were right there to help, So it was really fun to put it together just using what we had in Bellingham. I mean, to get those kind of special effects and that kind of music. And
Right.
We're a small town, so... it would be like doing it, well, not Pomona. I guess Pomona's bigger, right?
Yeah.
But like maybe a quarter of Pomona.
The thing about a small town is, though, I mean, the people there, they're very passionate about what they do. I'm from, like, an Amish town in Pennsylvania. Right. The food is amazing. Like, there's restaurants there that, like, should be chains, right? I mean, but then they probably wouldn't be what they are. But you know what I mean? Like, in small towns, those are the people who are really putting their energy and passion into things. It's not sort of like the corporate chaos sometimes of manufacturing that we get today when people are just getting done with their job. I mean, you can tell each one of you put your passion into this, and yeah, the quality is outstanding. I mean, this could easily be a studio film.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't seem like it's shot in a town of 60,000 people.
No.
I mean, it's really well done. Every time I watch, I can't watch it anymore because we've seen it thousands of times. But I mean, the first 100 times I watched it, it just gets you from, like you said, from the moment you start watching it, you can't turn it off. It just grabs you.
Yeah. No, it's brilliant.
The trailers were great. I mean, before we even had the film together, the trailers were, you get weepy watching the trailers,
Yeah.
Yeah, with that.
The Star Trek-y thing. Yeah.
As much as it's a visual spectacle, the audible glory, I guess, was yours, Andrew. You composed the music originally for this whole film.
Right. There was myself and another guy named Tim Carlson. The two of us really worked on composing. And we would bring in, like Ryan was saying, musicians from the university orchestra. They would get credit at the university for coming down, and we'd print off the sheet music, say, this is what we need you to do. But we needed the orchestral feel. But from the very beginning, the whole team talked, and we're like, this movie has scope. It has to be something that studios or distributors can look at and say, this is deserving of being in the theater. Audiences need to see this as an event in the theater. And so all our moves were kind of dictated by that, and keeping the story in there, very important, but making a film that had the scope to go big. And so the score had to back it up. I mean, when you come in and you see the editing that Anna's doing and the cinematography that Chad has and the visual effects that Colin's doing, it's like, okay, well, the music has to back this up. We can't be the weak link in this. So everybody kind of one-ups the other, and it's like, how can we do this? Oh, you just did that? Okay, well, let me go back. And but that really comes down to having the right team. That was everything on this movie. We had to have the right people. And for the 5 of us, 6 of us sitting here, there's, 15 more that are just as important up there. And it was just this small crew, but everybody's part was so important, from sound to editing, everything. So
it was great. I mean, like Ryan said, there was moments where I was getting a little, the trailer's powerful in and of itself, but the actual film, I was tearing up. There's some moments where I'm like, I don't want to spoil anything for the
Right.
viewers who haven't seen it, but there's a lot of awesome drama and competition.
You really fall
and
in love with these characters.
comedy, and just the characters are great. Everything's great.
Yeah,
I can't even stress that enough.
I mean, so these guys, I want to get into the story a little bit without, spoiling anything. We follow these guys from beginning to end. We sort of see them in the beginning going to their day job, not really, enjoying it, but then they just can't wait till the end of the day to get back to that garage and work on their passion, which they're not even going to get to do for a year. So it's like you've got this motivation every day that you're working on, but it all goes into this one race a year. And I really liked how they came together as a team, yet they still had like competitiveness within each other, within
Team
competition.
Super rat.
Super rat.
Yeah.
Right.
Can you guys talk about maybe some things on the cutting room floor that you edited out?
Maybe something you maybe wish you left in, or something that was really hard to cut.
I'd say, and Anna and Chad can speak to this too, but a lot of the things that were tough to cut were just some of the interactions between these four guys that are very colorful characters prior to even getting down racing on the salt.
Right.
Little moments that happen amongst the team, and we had more of it in, and we would watch, and we're like, we have to get this to 90 minutes. As much as we want to keep this in here, if somebody isn't on board at this point, like we would want them to be, then they're going to keep going down unless we keep things moving along. So there were moments where the guys are making fun of each other or helping each other, or something that just happens in a team when you're together so long and you're leaning on each other for help. And those types of moments were tough to cut. It'd be nice to do an extended cut sometime, but Anna wants to do that on her own. So.
Well, I want to talk about the races a little bit, since this is like an event film. So at Bonneville, these salt flats. Now, I was talking to Chad earlier. A lot of times salt flats are sort of protected. They won't let people race on them. And I asked him if that was a conflict with the races. Are they going through anything like that? Or they are welcomed there? Or are these salt lands basically not touched besides the races?
Well, and it's open. It's BLM, I believe, BLM land, and so it's open to the public year round. In fact, when there's an event, that's when they kind of close things off, just because of the danger and stuff. I mean, it's open to the public, but you have to pay to go in. So yeah, it's open year round to go out and mess around on.
So there's no protect the salt protests out there.
No, not huge. And motorsports has been such a huge part of the history there at Bonneville. And so I think they've always worked hard to keep that open. But there are organizations that work along with the racers in conjunction to help preserve the salt. There's an organization called Save the Salt. And so they're
wasn't far off.
And so they're involved in getting, and the racers are really respectful of it. They understand
Absolutely.
that it's a privilege to be there, and so they really work hard to do everything they can to keep it clean. So it's just an awesome group of people, and they want to always be able to go there and pass it on to generations. So it's in their best likes as well to keep that thing open. So.
The shot I love, there's a shot, you probably saw it, but it's a 2-lane highway, and it's all these vehicles lined up. It's another thing I love about the film is it's all these big semis sponsored by these companies, and these guys have bikes on the back of this little trailer behind the truck. But the road just ends at the salt.
Yeah, I did notice
It's this 2-lane
that.
highway that just ends all of a sudden.
This is where you're going.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And it's actually a lake, 8-9 months out of the year, and people are like, "Oh, why do you go when it's the hottest?" It's like, well, we go because that's when the water's down under the surface.
Wow.
So that's when they have to do it. So it's
really interesting.
90, 100, and upper 110 when you're out there. And
the thing is, I mean, you're on a huge white surface, so the sun reflects from all directions.
Yeah.
You wear sunscreen under your chin,
Don't wear a
under your
dress.
ear, because everything. Yeah.
yeah, you put sunscreen up your shorts. Yeah.
Wow, that's really
Yeah, so
interesting.
it comes from everywhere. There's no shade, except for whatever you bring. So it's some tough conditions.
So let's talk about the races themselves. So I was interested in, they said that there was a 11-mile track and then a 5-mile track.
Mm-hmm.
And how it works is the mile directly in the center is the measured mile that, counts towards the records. So what is the difference between, why would a racer choose to race on the 5 instead of the 11?
Well, you've got records being set anywhere from 50 miles an hour up to almost 400 miles an hour. So, you know, for a 50-mile-an-hour record to go on an 11-mile course, we're all going to be out there for an hour watching this guy make his way down the 11 miles. So they have the shorter course for the guys that are going up to a certain speed. But then for these guys that are going, you know, I think the fastest right now is 376 miles an hour.
Wow. Just so you guys know at home, planes go around like 550 their speed. So that's really fast.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So in the way they gear the machines to be able to reach those speeds, because you have to be light, you can't just put these enormous engines in there. So you have to gear them a certain way. So it takes, 5-6 miles to get up to that speed. And so that's why the longer course is
that
there.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, I feel like we have to talk about the injuries. We didn't get to see a whole lot in the film, per se, but I'm guessing you guys filmed a lot. And, I mean, they say the chance of an accident is 100%. So what is that like? I mean, obviously these guys know that they're risking their lives going this speed with no protection. So did you guys see that side of it?
Luckily, no. We didn't witness any of that,
great.
in person where anybody headed off in an ambulance. There was one or two what they call get-offs where, somebody hit the ground, but nothing so serious to where, anybody was hurt. So that's good. But yeah, I mean, it's especially when you're building a motorcycle from scratch, there's a lot of engineering that goes into these production motorcycles that come off of a showroom floor, and there's a huge team of people working around them. But when you're a couple guys in a garage, you're putting your life in your own hands. I mean, Omar talks about it Jason talks about it at the end. And so yeah, that's huge. I mean, you don't really know what's going to happen until they get out there. So yeah, there's a lot of risk involved for sure.
There's not a lot of places you can test a bike like that, aside from the salt. So that's another thing Jason had said was, you get out to the salt and you maybe got about 5 miles on your bike, and when you get up to that speed, here we go, we'll see what's going to happen. But they just, like you said, they just don't think about it. They love it so much, they're going to do it, and that's the way it's going to be. And
the thing is with the salt, a lot of people would think, oh, it's hard, it's crusty, there's a lot of grip, and really it's not. It's actually cool to the touch, it's wet, and it can be very slippery, especially on some of these higher power motorcycles where it's wanting to slip out. So, there's a lot of factors. So, if you were on pavement, you've got good grip, you wouldn't have to worry about it. But a little bit of wind can start scooting you across that. So the conditions of the salt really play into a lot of that danger factor too.
Wow.
Speaking about the danger, I was alarmed that there wasn't like some sort of age limit, right?
Yeah,
because we've got a 14-year-old driving alongside these adults trying to make records as well. Now, and I was thinking, I guess you don't need a driver's license.
Can anyone go out and go 300 miles an hour down the Salt Flats in Bonneville?
Well, I mean, I guess if you've got the skills to get something to go 300 miles an hour, then yeah, I mean, you've probably got some experience there. But
and you have to pass, you have to get through the safety inspections. Yeah. They have to okay everything, and there's a pretty rigorous set of...
Right, that makes sense.
They're certainly all about the safety. Yeah, there's, like you said, there's a lot of rules and stuff that go in. You have to have all your safety, your motorcycle has to meet all these safety standards and stuff. So, because the event doesn't want to see anybody get hurt, so they make sure it's safe as possible. But yeah, I mean, anybody can go out there, they can take their motorcycle, their mopeds. You see people out there from mopeds on up to these rocket ships, so.
No, it was really cool to see. I mean, people who maybe have hurt themselves in other aspects of life still being able to race. We had, females out there, which I actually don't ride a bike, but I wanted to after watching this. And also, I mean, just seeing the children, for kids at home, I mean, this film is really inspiring. I mean, I feel like a lot of kids would be like, oh my God, yeah, I want to do that.
Did you lie about riding a bike here?
I did lie about that.
Okay.
I knew that my joke
It was so
failed.
believable when you said it. It didn't sound like a joke. It sounded like you're serious.
He was the only one who laughed because he, in fact, knows that I don't. And I'm like, yeah, that joke's not going to work. They say that you can only be funny around people that you really know. For me, that's
I thought you were pretty clear on the phone when I was talking to you. I'm like, man, if she was whizzing along, that must have been a
I love
good
that you
helmet.
thought back to that.
I was like, yeah, no. Did you bring like your gun rack too?
Hey, you know what? I could race next year. Start on my bike. When are these races?
Yeah,
exactly. How long do I have to assemble my bike if I'm really thinking about this?
Well, they have several different events throughout there. In fact, they have one, Speed Week is a really famous one where they race cars and trucks and everything as well. The event we were at was strictly motorcycles, but they start in August and go through October, I believe. So it's kind of that season in there where, the salt's in good enough condition to where they can do it. And last year and the year before, they had a lot of weather conditions where the salt was actually flooded, and they had to cancel some of these big events. But yeah, so fall time is...
When it flooded for you, though, it actually led to some pretty beautiful shots.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you had like the whole world reflected off of that lake.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. So a little blessing in disguise, I guess, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And, it creates a drama. And that's the thing and that's the part that I love about this kind of filmmaking is just the reality and being in the middle of it. And then when a storm comes, it's like, oh my God, here we go. Like, buckle down the hatches, let's go. And but then everybody's running for cover, but we're out running around with cameras.
This is great.
Yeah, right.
Get all of this.
Yeah.
I mean, but you guys probably weren't expecting that. So did you have like protective covering for all your equipment or whatnot?
Well, after the first year when it happened, it was like, okay, well, next time we better be a little more prepared. But the thing is, I remember in 2013 when we were there, sitting on the tailgate of a truck, taking a break and looking. It was like 2:00 in the afternoon, not a cloud in the sky anywhere. I was like, man, this is awesome. By 4:00, there was 2 inches of rain on the salt. So it comes out of nowhere,
Wow.
and
Out of nothing.
Yeah. Exactly.
So I want to talk about your initial vision for the film, which I guess started with you, and then, what it is today and how that changed.
Yeah, I mean, the initial idea was like, wow, let's capture some sort of story with Mark and Carl getting to go to the Bonneville for the first time. I mean, this is something that a lot of these types of guys dream about since they're little kids, and they talk about that in the film. Mm-hmm. So that was the initial idea, but then we got down there and, I had never been, so I didn't know what to expect, and so we just captured it as it happened and quickly realized that it was a human element story and how much of it went into it. And then, before I went down the second year, I had a chance to talk with Andy and talk some story, and get some ideas of, okay, well, let's go this direction. And so we really started capturing that human element. And so then once it was in the cutting room and we were editing it, then there was a lot of changing and morphing and deciding. I mean, really, this whole film happened backwards than what a film normally, normally like you interview the guys and it's like, okay, well, let's go with this way with this story, but then you shoot it. Well, I just went out and captured, and then we figured out how to put the story put it together afterwards.
Yeah,
Were there filming after the initial filming? Like, did you guys go back after you got involved?
We went back to get some more B-roll on some shots to get coverage and show people more of the event, to take them, take the audience on an escape and say, okay, let's let them peek into parts of this that they wouldn't have seen otherwise, so they can get a feel like, okay, I feel like I'm at the Salt with the guys now. But one thing that Chad didn't mention that he did that was very helpful for the whole team, and another thing that when we brought the team on, we wanted to follow this, was that he didn't instigate things for them. He didn't say, okay, you guys, I need you to argue, I need you to do this. Chad, he decided from the very beginning to be the fly on the wall, capture it as it happened. And so when we all came on, that was the best part. Nobody was forcing anything. It wasn't like, okay, can you take your bike out just for us to go do this? And it was, don't do it if you weren't going to do it anyway. We want to get it as it happened. We want it to be real. And so when we came on, we were constantly in the editing room asking ourselves, let's show this in the most abbreviated time frame that we can, but as it happened. So we're accurate, because sometimes you watch documentaries and you're just like, okay, I know somebody got pushed to do this or this happened there.
That's why I really enjoyed this.
We wanted it to be real.
Yeah.
Like the Kardashians.
Yeah.
There's no Frankenbiting. It was not like a reality show. It was.
I have a question. I don't know who best to open it up to amongst you guys, but the one thing I wish I would have seen more of are the family members of some of these guys, the wives and the kids and stuff like that, because they talk a lot about, there's a quote in there, I think it's Jason who says, creative people will sacrifice their whole life for this. And the idea of doing this almost because they had to, not out of obligation, but it was like their bodies almost forced them to do this. What was the toll on the family members? Did you get anything with wives saying, he's not at home at night? Bill Woods, I don't know if he was married, but working till 3 a.m. every night in the garage. Yeah. Surely this has a toll on these guys, not just sleep-wise, but relationships and families and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's 1,000 different stories that we could have told with that, and but that is certainly something that would be a very interesting aspect, and I think the spouses or the family members of these people understand the passion that's behind it, so they put up with a lot, you know. And I'm sure it's tough, but it was certainly. I don't think there was any drama really that happened over it, but
was it just a decision they didn't want to talk and it didn't add to the story, so it didn't? The story was about the 4 guys.
No, and I think as we were in the editing room cutting this together and looking at the time frame that we had, there was dialogue from all of us about do we go bring in one of these wives and ask them to reference something that this guy just referenced? You know, can you tell us about what he just said from your perspective? And then the movie starts pushing beyond what would allow us to get out to audiences, is we had to keep cutting back, and that's tricky. The editing room is a really tough place, but there were some great things. You talk about challenges, and there were a lot of things where, oh man, if we could have heard from this person describe this, because we just heard this guy say that, and if it was described from that, you know, this angle would be more powerful even too. But then you just start adding on to a runtime, and you create more obstacles for yourself when you hardly have any money and hardly have any time to finish it.
I'm thinking of the 4 or 5 times, though, that we do kind of include family in the film are really powerful moments in the film. So I think if you overdo that, those instances aren't going to carry that kind of power either. So.
And I feel like you can really sense the support from them in those scenes.
Oh, yes, of course you can.
I mean, that's all there is in those scenes.
Well, especially the last scene. I mean, you saw the last scene, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was beautiful.
Yeah, I liked how you guys kind of kept it with the core, the 4 guys, the team, the Super Rat team. It was really, for the 90 minutes that you had, you know, I could have watched it another hour, but for the time you had to work with, you wrapped the story, but you kind of also left it a little bit hanging at the end, to the point where I'm like, oh man, I want them to turn this into a reality show. Like, I want to watch Bill, Omar, Carl, and Mark just build bikes and get into shenanigans and make bets and drama all year long.
If it turns into a reality show, it's not going to be real anymore, though.
That's true. That's true. That does happen, doesn't it?
Well, in touching on that and what we were talking about earlier, and I think that's one of the biggest compliments that I've heard in hearing people say, like, I loved it because it was so real. And then them referring to all these reality shows of, like, it wasn't those dang reality shows. Like, this was so much more real. And I appreciated that because, I mean, that's the way we really shot it, was just to be there like a fly on the wall.
What separated it for me from, you know, the 4 or 5, I don't know if they're on anymore, but at the time we were doing this, bike reality shows that were on TV, was, you know, they would put together a bike, you know, the wheels would come shipped and they'd put those on. And I mean, these guys are banging out metal, you know, I mean, trying to find little parts off of other bikes that, that's what was amazing to me. It wasn't one of these kind of cookie cutter kind of, oh, our wheels are here, let's put them on, and isn't this beautiful? You know, that's not the way it is with these guys.
Yeah, it was raw. It was real cool.
I mean,
to
they're
watch.
ripping other bikes apart to make up other bikes. You know, I mean, it's pretty cool. That their workspace is hilarious.
Yeah.
Can you talk about it?
I mean, when I first walked in there, it was, I think, who was carrying the bike upstairs?
Oh my
There's a loft
no
area with a ladder, and they had
way.
a bike just kind of carrying a bike up the loft. You know, I mean,
a ladder too, like a ladder. They were hiking it up the ladder, just trying to get it up to the loft.
It's in a storage area in one of those storage complexes. That's where their workshop is. So.
I mean, I would be very afraid of getting that down once I'm finished.
This is not like a, you know, as you see on TV where they have all this space and there's bikes all over the place. You can barely walk through the place. There's a head over there and a wheel over there, and you know, it's quite messy.
Yeah, there's carcasses of motorcycles everywhere.
Yeah. You'll get a sense of it if you watch Mad Max.
Yeah.
Honestly, the shots were similar. I had someone joking with me about that because I was talking about this film, just like how amazing the shots were, and I'm like, they were like Mad Max.
That's a good way to put it.
Without spending $180 million.
Yeah, guys. Yeah, but I think, you know, I really hope that more comes out of this because I do want to see more of those characters, and I think that's what Bobby was getting at with wanting to see their family, and Ryan with, you know, just initiating the idea for this, and the fact that they are so real, and the fact that they don't have these parts shipping in, and that their garage is upstairs or not even in stairs, it's above it's in a cubby hole, I don't know, in a storage space, you know, like, yeah, these are obviously real guys, real stories, real trials and tribulations that they go through on a daily basis. And I'm so glad that you guys were able to come in and talk to us about this. For the documentary filmmakers at home, what sort of advice do you have to give to them? Because, I mean, you kind of started this project on your own. I mean, this could be, you know, a garage documentary, and we just have you coming in here today, but instead you've assembled this
I honestly
whole
feel sorry for
team.
people that are putting together documentaries that live in large cities that have what they need, like sound studios and all that, because you know you don't get the cooperation that we had, you know, and everything's going to be harder for them to get and for them to do. But for us, I think it was a real advantage being up in Bellingham, where we didn't have any outside interference to worry about, or, you know, it was just us in a small town, which I think was really cool, you know. And everybody, again, the feel behind it was, even before we had finished it, it was just a great feeling that all these people were working on it, you know.
And it helped us tell the story, because our story was kind of paralleling theirs. So we knew what to do. It's like, well, this is happening to us right now. So we're all working day jobs, or some of them are, you know, and then going to edit on the film at night or work on sound on the film, and, you know, tapping into our own savings to do what we needed to do. But
Well, I think, you know, to the other filmmakers out there, I think it's follow your passion. You know, I mean, that's what everybody here has done, is follow their passion and not give up, and, you know, always keep that goal and that passion in front of you, just like dribbling a soccer ball, you know.
And isn't it that doers not talkers idea that they keep talking about in the film? And it's a very working class idea that we don't talk about this, we don't analyze this, we just go do it.
Yeah.
And whether it's the film or the bikes or whatever it is, or cooperation in the city, we don't talk about, oh, we need to get to a sound stage, we need to get an orchestra. We just find a French horn and then a percussion, you know, whatever it is, and we just get it done. And that's what the parallel to who these guys are in the film, I feel like.
And that's the way, like, it started when I started filming it. It was like, well, gosh, you know, I'm just out there with a camera. How am I going to do it? Like, you know, it just, that wasn't a discussion. It was like, well, I'm just going to go do it, you know, and
Well, honestly,
happened, so.
to find something that actually gets some sort of feeling out of someone. You know, I remember when we started earlier on, and Andy had no idea what this movie was, but I said, when I sit down, I want to get the same feeling that I get, and you won't know what this is either. You might have to look it up when you get home. But I want to get the same feeling I got when Lulu sang "Into Sir with Love." Remember I said that to you, and you had no idea what I was talking about?
I know what that
is.
But that's exactly how I wanted to feel in parts of this movie, and that's how I did feel in parts of this movie. So it's, you know, to stir up emotions, which a lot of documentaries don't do. You know, it's
important
it's
to
people
do that.
being angry at each other, or, you know.
Well, and I think
People
so
take
much
it.
of that came from the team that it was assembled. I mean, had it just been me, you know, I'm more the gearhead, you know, motorcycle guy, and I would have just been out there filming motorcycles being built. And that's where the rest of the team came on and really counterbalance that out to where it had that type of emotion and that feel to it. And the music, of course, always, you know, adds to all of that. So it just ended up being a well-balanced team.
yeah, my advice would be, whether it's you have a big budget or a small budget, I would tell people to find the right people, because to me that was what it was all about. From a producer's aspect, when you hardly have any money, but you have the right people that believe in you, that believe in each of the other people working around them, and are never going to give less than 100%, then you move mountains. So
Yeah, you guys should stay together, because that's really hard to do.
Oh, it is.
Anna left an editing job here to come live
Yeah,
in
I'm actually
Bellingham.
from Los Angeles.
To come live in Bellingham and edit this film for
That
nothing, you know.
His
I mean,
passion.
Wow.
We have this very masculine-driven project,
and
It's
then
like
she
we
never
a
wanted to
female.
leave.
Yes, Bellingham is a wonderful place.
We have all these guys working on this project, you know, maybe a couple female production assistants. We really wanted to have a female sitting at the controls with us that could turn around and debate with us, saying, look, if you want to attract female audiences too, and you want to have some heart and soul in this, here's my thoughts. And someone who, you know, hopefully we give her enough freedom to do that, but it just adds so much. And then again, you find that team member and you're like, okay, so what are we doing next? Don't go work on anything else. Let's figure out a way that we can all stay together here. So
I touched your arm there, didn't I? That wasn't your breast, was it?
Yeah.
It was my arm. You're safe.
And I wasn't looking when I did it.
No, it's great that you guys were aware of that, and including Anna in that aspect, because this is like what you would think of like a manly sort of topic. You know, most guys would probably want to talk about this, and not so much girls, but it was so great to see that she was the editor. I was actually surprised that, you know, it was from a female editor, and I loved that aspect, and I'm sure that you did help add a lot of like the passion and awareness of, you know, okay, this is what the females would like to see also. But, just every different aspect I feel like was covered here. And whoever you are, whatever your dream is, your passion, we all have similar struggles, and I feel like you can definitely relate to this film. Are we leaving anything out that we want to tease out there for people before they go to facebook.com/outofnothingfilm to find out where they can see it at a festival, and then also on ESPN in August?
Right, and we'll keep people posted on the new festivals and other screenings around the country or the world as they come up.
There's some cool behind-the-scenes stuff on YouTube.
Yeah.
I guess
Oh,
can
awesome.
reference that.
That's a good point. Yeah, and I think when you guys mentioned that you'd seen that.
I saw a couple behind-the-scenes videos, behind-the-scenes of Colin's work with the special effects in the intro, and there's a couple others. And do you have a YouTube page where fans can go find those?
Just type in Out of Nothing into YouTube.
That's what I
Out of Nothing
did.
behind the scenes or
And
Out of
then you
Nothing
Not enough
trailers.
movie, and you'll find it.
Out of Nothing movie.
We also do have a website.
Oh, yeah.
Outofnothing.com?
Outofnothingmovie.com. So.
Got it.
Outofnothingmovie.
Outofnothingmovie.com.
You all fit together like the cogs of some gear on a bike. I don't know how it works.
He's attempting to put together a bike.
Thank you.
Nice
Thank you.
job.
Hurrah, hurrah. I actually just wanted to ask real quick. I mean, you did great with this. Are you maybe thinking about working together on something else in the future as a team? No.
Ryan's done with us.
Ryan says no.
It's like, I'm out of here.
Honestly, I would watch whatever it is. I'm just going to tell you that right now.
Well, listen, I mean, and this is what this town is like. My little girl's school is they're opening a new school and needed help to get invested. These guys came out with their drones and shot a thing for her school, know. So,
oh, wow.
That's what it's like, If you need people, they're there for you, By the way, have you seen this new Lily drone? That thing's fantastic. Have you seen it?
Shameless plug.
You gotta look it up if you haven't. It's fantastic.
Well, thanks everyone for tuning in today. You can find us on iTunes, on YouTube, at the Popcorn Talk, and we have a listener survey at podcast1.com right now. We love the ratings and comments that you guys send us each week. You can follow me, Kristen Elizabeth Snyder, at Cinematic Escape.
And you can follow me, Ryan Malady, at Ryan Malady.
And me, Bobby DeMuro, at Bobby DeMuro.
Thank you guys. I know
Thanks.
you are not on Twitter, you guys. Maybe that will change. I think you are, Anna. Can you say to the fans your Twitter handle?
I'm just at the Anna Sweeney.
And I'm sure we can get some Out of Nothing updates from you as well. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you next Sunday.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network. The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.